Total offensive comedy with dope ass dudes, dope ass channel.
What is up, my totally offensive army and random YouTubers alike, and people of Facebook as well? That's right, we're going cross-platform with this video. Why, you ask? Because over 20 people have sent me a link to this video on Facebook. It's a video by 221 Bravo Tactical, and it's 30 minutes long. And yes, I finally had time to sit down and watch it. Now, in this video, this dude in this Jeep goes on to talk about what happened over the 4th of July weekend at Lake Monroe in Bloomington, Indiana, regarding a man by the name of Vauxx Booker. Now, basically, if you want to check this out for yourself, it's already been covered by major news outlets. It's already on TMZ. But just type in black man attempted lynching, Lake Monroe, Bloomington, Indiana. It'll pop right up on your Google News or your news feed, search engine, whatever have you. And this guy right here on 221 Bravo Tactical does a 30-minute long video. And every 3 minutes, he just reiterates his points again and again. And a lot of what he says is just conjecture, rumors, and hearsay. None of it's really believable or valid. He doesn't have a lot of facts to back up what he's saying. And then later on in his video, he goes on to talk about ways in which you can diffuse and de-escalate violent confrontations with drunk people. And he tries to give you advice on how to, like, socially interact with people who are drunk, as if it makes a difference. I mean, a lot of that's just common sense. When people have had too much to drink, you don't fuck with them. You don't put yourself in a position to where there's going to be an altercation, and you don't put yourself in a position to escalate a confrontation with someone who's been drinking too much. It doesn't fucking work. Those people can't be reasoned with. It is what it is. He even goes on to talk about the practicality of putting together an event to witness a lunar eclipse, as if this guy is gonna watch a bunch of lunar eclipses from the sunroof of his $30,000 Jeep. I don't find that believable at all, and I honestly wish people hadn't sent me so many fucking links to this video, but you did. So now here we are, and here I am making this video, and I put a fair amount of research and investigative time into this fucking video so I can back up what I'm saying with a lot of facts. And I have a ton of facts and a ton of information. First off, I just want to go ahead and address what happened down at Lake Monroe in Bloomington, Indiana over the 4th of July weekend. Do I believe that Vauxx Booker was maliciously attacked, and that the people who attacked him were their motives that of being racism? Was it a hate crime? Absolutely fucking not! I believe that the people who attacked Vauxx Booker are, in fact, racist, drunk hillbillies, and you will see that in this video. Vauxx Booker himself released 4 different videos on his own Facebook account, which then other YouTube accounts picked up, news outlets picked up and shared. But the thing is, those videos were not put in chronological order. Those videos actually were just spread at random throughout the internet, and people use them to push different narratives and to voice their opinions about what they think happened without actually doing any research whatsoever. Well, I'm here to tell you that I've done the research. I've done a lot of fucking research. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into all this research I've done, and I'll explain the facts behind what I'm saying to you right now. Let's get started, shall we? Oh, Lord. Alright. So first off, what was just released 24 hours ago was the police tape when Vauxx Booker and his friends called into the police, and they were trying to go ahead and get the cops out there after the violent altercation took place on the shores of Lake Monroe out there by the Zoom Flume. If you don't know what the Zoom Flume is, it is actually like public property. A lot of people go out there and they deface it with graffiti and just explore. It's an old water park type setting, and if you Google some pictures, it's actually really cool looking, even especially with the graffiti. I think the graffiti kind of sets it off more from an aesthetic standpoint, actually. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this police tape.
Are you still on the water, sir?
Affirmative.
We just took a call reference a fight that happened at the old Zoom Flume property, and there were 4 subjects that attacked another subject, and he cannot come out of the woods. He's advising that the people that beat him up are still there, and he's feeling unsafe.
Now, what you're actually going to find in the videos Vauxx Booker put out himself was that he did, in fact, come out of the woods, and there was a point at which he felt safe, and the situation de-escalated enough that he could remove himself from it. So initially, what is said on the call to the cops is actually not at all true.
Are you able to head to the property and assist?
Affirmative. Are they saying they're camping on that private property back there? Or are they on the state property?
They said right off the south side of the causeway on the old Zoom Flume property across from Cutright. 4 subjects were yelling things at the CP and then attacked him. His friend has a video of the attack, and he's afraid to come out of the woods because the people that beat him up are still there.
It's not just his friend has a video of the attack. There's actually multiple people with Vauxx Booker, and they're actually all recording this from various angles, which is why in Vox's videos, none of the angles actually match up, and it's really hard to put together what's happening in chronological order to determine a sequence of events that led up to this, and then that led to the de-escalation and Vauxx walking away. But I've managed to do that pretty well using landmarks and various social cues from the people involved in this. I'll show you here in a couple minutes.
Was he able to provide suspect's description?
That's negative. The call dropped once while we were talking to him. He did call back. I do have a phone number for the caller.
17 clear. I have wind traffic. Could you try to call that CP back? Will be 1076. Plus just the suspect description.
Should we try and have him walk towards the water if they're on the other side blocking him from leaving on that side?
Noise. Can you 10-9?
The subject is going to walk down towards the water. He's advising that he can walk towards the water. Apparently they're on the other side of him. So that he's going to walk towards the water. Dispatch.
Go ahead.
Now, keep in mind, in the upcoming videos and what's been released on the internet, Vauxx Booker did indeed seek medical attention after this violent altercation took place, and he was diagnosed with a minor concussion plus multiple scrapes and abrasions after being assaulted by 5 guys, yeah. But basically, he was able to walk away from the situation okay. He was able to walk down to the water to actually meet with officers. There's a lot of things that don't add up in this whole in Vox's videos versus what's been put out after the videos on the internet, and I'm going to go ahead and highlight those as well throughout the course of this video.
We have a 6-foot black male that's going to be heading down to the beach area. Reference that disturbance call.
What beach area?
The attacking parties.
Police nobody here wants to give any information whatsoever, but the CP is not here.
Clearly, not currently have him on TX.
617 clear.
Now you can clearly hear the officer say when he's responding to the dispatcher that one of the parties does not want to give any information whatsoever. Do I know which party doesn't want to give any information whatsoever? I mean, it could be the racist white drunk hillbillies, or it could be Vauxx and his friends. That's not been established in this call. But either way, one of the parties involved with this was not forthcoming with any honesty or information for this.
Green hat, yellow and gray shirt, khaki shorts.
617 clear.
Property area. He's heading down towards the water.
And that's the CP.
Alright, so already you know that through this call, Vauxx is meeting an officer at the water. He's going to give his side of the events. People have been talked to and refused to give their sides of the events that took place and weren't very forthcoming with information. That's what you get in the first 2 minutes. Vauxx was able to actually walk down to the waterfront and talk to the officer under his own power. So, you know, some of these things are going to be in dispute throughout the course of this video, and we'll go ahead and touch on those and highlight those things that are going to be in dispute as well. Now let's get started with the actual video that Vauxx Booker released himself from his Facebook, which multiple news and media outlets picked up, okay? And now what essentially I've done is I've taken the various segments of this video filmed by different people from different angles, and I've been able to put it in chronological order utilizing landmarks along the path that they're actually walking away from the shoreline on.
Stop! Let him go! Stop! Let him go! We're just trying to get out of here.
Now this is where they have Vauxx Booker pinned between two trees and they're basically wailing on him. We don't know what led up to the actual violent confrontation to where these guys started beating the shit out of Vauxx Booker on the shores of Lake Monroe in Bloomington, Indiana. There's no videos leading up to what actually caused that confrontation to happen. Now, essentially, the way it's being told, the narrative being pushed here, is that Vauxx Booker and her friends were out to, enjoy a lunar eclipse. They were trying to get a decent view. They went down to the shores of Lake Monroe out by the Zoom flume and the causeway. And what happened was they came upon a party of people who were white, Trump 2020 supporters, whatnot. They've been drinking, and, they're basically some drunk hillbillies, and they were like, please leave, this is private property. At which point, the two parties argued back and forth, Vauxx and his friends, the drunk hillbillies, about who had rights to access the property and utilize it, and then it became it became something in regards to racism as a motive, and things got heated from there and turned violent. But there's no footage to corroborate any of that whatsoever. And I'm about to prove that. But anyway, also keep in mind, dude in the red shirt here. He doesn't make an appearance in any videos except this video. And there's particular reasons for it that I pretty much surmised on my own. But they're pretty self-evident.
Here, guys. We're just trying to get out of here. Let him go, dude. Let him go. Let him go. Please, let him go. Please let him go. We're going to as soon as you let him go.
Now this guy doing all the pointing and stuff. Now watch the girl behind the tree. Now she's either related to him or she's banging him. And if she's banging him and they're romantically involved, my condolences to this girl because she's cute and she can do way better. And if she's related to him, once again, my condolences because this guy is a racist fucking idiot who is clearly drunk out of his goddamn mind and has no business whatsoever laying hands on anybody or saying or doing the things he's doing right now.
I'm going to.
Guys, get the fuck out of here!
Let him go.
Get your phones out of here and go!
Let him
Shake
go.
your head at me!
Let him go.
I have no problem! I have no problem! Just like you guys have been...
Now this girl in the bikini here, basically, I want you to keep an eye on her throughout the course of this video because as the situation begins to escalate and Vauxx and his friends are actually trying to walk away, her mood and her demeanor and basically what she's saying and doing changes, and it goes from being utterly supportive and saying Vauxx Booker is an amazing person who has endured a lot to saying Vauxx Booker is a horrible human being. And my guess, which is like a pretty much educated guess, based a lot on what she's doing with her body language and her words, is that a lot of things happened off camera between this girl and Vox Booker to escalate this situation and make it worse than it should have been.
No one invaded.
You guys invaded us! We were out in the
Notice they're also saying invaded. Past tense, as in they've already had an altercation. They're trying to defuse it. Vauxx and his friends are trying to leave. Invaded, past tense.
You invaded
No one
us.
invaded you.
Stupid fucking liberal fucks!
This guy's obviously
That's what
an
you
idiot,
get.
but it's okay. He's
Take your
definitely
ass
racist.
on.
Now, once again, we'll replay the Vox's Mickey Mouse voice here.
Fucking liberal fucks! That's what you get! Take your ass on!
I'm fine. You hear him multiple times throughout the video say that he is in fact fine. Also, take note of the fact that he is walking through a path in the woods, over down logs, like roots, tripping hazards, holes in the ground, and he is walking under his own power with almost perfect hand-eye coordination. For someone who has a minor concussion, like, these things are not easily done. For someone who's been violently beaten by 5 people, once again, these things are not easily done for someone, like, not easy for someone. But he is walking out of the woods under his own power. He's able to meet and speak with officers afterwards at a particular meeting location and get there under his own power.
Are you okay?
Oh yeah, hold your heart, you little fucking bitch.
I know. You are so amazing, and thank you for saving me.
Now, once again, the girl has said, "You're amazing. Thank you for saying that. You endured what you did." Like, she has a lot of positive things to say to Vox Booker.
This what you wanted? This what you guys came down on private property for?
Now, keep in mind, the video started on the shoreline, and they're walking away from the shoreline.
Take a picture of everyone in motherfucker's hairline. Not a mistake. And this motherfucker don't want to run us.
These guys know that they don't want that.
You got no business here, motherfucker. It's on 4th of July. Party to Kids Day. We're having fun. You want to ruin it?
No, it's up. So this is ours too.
Oh, yeah? Well, stay the fuck off the property, you dumb fuck.
Like, you can already tell that the guy who's been doing most of the yelling, screaming, and shouting is way over the legal limit and definitely shouldn't ever get behind the wheel after he's had this many beers. He's not someone who should be in a crowd of people after drinking this much. He's saying the dumbest, most immature shit ever. There's no doubt in my mind that he's racist. There's no doubt in my mind that he likes to fight. There's no doubt in my mind that he's a very small-minded bigot of a man. I get that. However, there's doubts in my mind as to what led up to all this, because there's a lot of things that haven't been put on camera that have probably escalated this situation. And there are various clues which we're about to go ahead and highlight during this video.
Not on your property now.
Oh, do something then. Do something then.
I'm not trying to go
I'm
there
right
with
here,
you, buddy.
baby.
I'm not trying to go there with you.
This is private property. This is public property.
Let's do this.
Go ahead, go.
Now we're here. Now we're here, baby.
We're gonna walk this shit out.
You can do whatever you want. I really don't care. Because I'm not a
There's a
really
boundary
bad
here.
person.
Where's the fucking
The boundaries come up soon.
trust me,
You
son?
can really trust it, yeah.
Just like the rest of you liberal fucks.
Okay, and everything.
Now keep in mind when you watch this video the downed logs. You can see that the majority of this dispute takes place away from the shoreline. And it gets farther and farther away from the shoreline based on the logs that have fallen in the path. Because these logs are of a particular shape and size. It's the hillbilly in me coming out. I can't help it. I notice these things. And basically, the majority of the racist content in this video that happens is when they're stopped in between two logs, and this girl is trying to retrieve the black lab you keep seeing. The dog you see in the video belongs to the girl in the bikini who goes from supporting Vox Booker and saying he's an amazing human being to immediately losing her shit after some things definitely take place off camera. And there are clues to that, and I have a separate video for that as well.
There you are. Yeah. There you are.
Jerry.
Jerry. What you doing with that motherfucker?
You're no
This is a person, dude. Oh, this is a person.
I
know. Just like when you came down and invaded us. Just like when you guys invaded us. You guys invaded us. We were having a fight.
So ridiculous.
No one invaded you. You stupid fucking
So ridiculous.
fucks. That's what you did. Take your ass on.
Once again, he keeps saying he's fine. Notice how the camera angles are changing. Everybody you see in this video on Vox's side is either holding a phone up or holding a phone in their hand, ready to film at any moment. That's why the angles are going to keep changing throughout this video, and why you have to verify particular landmarks on the trail to figure out just how far they progressed down the trail and how much time has passed during this whole situation.
I'll draw a line right here.
Okay.
Keep recording you.
That was so wonderful.
Oh yeah, hold so hard, you little fucking bitch.
I know. You were so amazing.
Come
We
on,
keep
Ash.
saying that. But that was so
All right.
unnecessary.
Okay.
There's a better time and place to
Those
address that.
black
That was
boys
not
want
my
to start it
time.
all.
So go.
Big
I
black
just want my
boys
dog.
wanna
I'm
start
sorry.
it all.
Figure it out.
My dog. Well, thank you. It's my dog.
I don't want you to feel intimidated. That's what I'm
Nothing's
saying.
gonna happen to your
Okay.
dog. Your dog's
Yeah. No one's gonna do anything to you.
Come on, buddy.
Don't get me.
Please.
Punch right in your fucking
Hey,
face.
Hey, please.
stop it.
No,
Let's just.
no, you guys, you guys crossed the fucking line. This guy's gonna be cool. You guys crossed the fucking line.
Yeah.
Then go. Then go.
Okay.
Then go.
All right, Max.
Hey,
That's all
join
right.
somebody else's side if you're not happy with that.
All right,
Okay.
Max. That's all
Come
right.
over here and hang out with us. Let's have that bullshit.
You threatened me.
I don't think you guys race your slow. You guys.
You
You're
told
fucking.
Now, this is where the girl in the bikini pretty much goes from supporting Vauxx to saying that he's worse than the police and he's a horrible human being and he's abusing his positions of power. She's actually very descriptive with the things she's saying to him, so pay close attention. I also have isolated parts of what she's saying in another video that I'll share with you that supports this very easily, in fact.
Somebody coming up behind you, I don't know.
And you totally threatened me. You said I'm going to start all kinds of shit.
Hey, we're going. There's somebody behind.
Now, she basically just told Vauxx that, like, he totally threatened her and said he's going to slap all kinds of shit on her. And this definitely took place off camera. However, if you're these drunken hillbilly dudes, and this is a woman who is a member of your party who you care about and have affections for, and all of a sudden you see her become, emotional or going through some type of distress, you're going to immediately run up and try to actually, defend her honor or take care of her or pretty much, resolve the problem. If you're a guy who cares about any woman and your woman is in distress, you're going to immediately do that if you're any type of man whatsoever. That's just a default character reasoning right there.
There's somebody behind you.
Videotape it all you want. What do you think is going to happen? Videotape it all you fucking want.
There's some. Let's go. Come on, let's go. Let's go.
Let's go. Hey, I'm from Atlanta.
Now, also note that there's a golf cart in the background, which doesn't make an appearance later on. There's a down log thereby, and this is where they're pretty much ready to have their showdown at the OK Corral moment. This is going to be pretty much the climax of the racist moments in this video. And there's no doubt in my mind that these drunk ass hillbillies are racist. They are not Bloomington, Indiana residents. They're actually from Indianapolis. So please don't take this as a representation of Bloomington as a whole if you're watching this and you're not a Bloomington native. But at the same time, racism does happen in Bloomington. Okay, there's a lot of racial injustices committed every day here in this town, but not to this extent in which 5 guys jump a black dude, even if the black dude might have went ahead and instigated the fuck out of this just because he wanted publicity and clout, which is, I believe, a fair amount of his motive for putting this video out there the way he has.
Fucking videotape it all you want, bitch.
You come up here and started, you fucking motherfucking liberal bitch.
Let's go,
You
guys.
really started this, and that's so important.
You really started. You started the whole
You happy with all your white
You
fucking
started all of
friends?
it.
All your white friends
Yeah.
are happy about this, right?
He provoked
You
it.
little
He totally
bitch.
started.
You started
Come
all
back
of
on
it.
this side. Come
Hey,
on,
I can't even think for right
come
here.
off this
And you
way.
totally provoked
Come on, you
it.
think for
Come
right
off this
You
way.
are-
Let's go, guys.
Now, supposedly, Vauxx had a concussion. He got the shit beat out of him. And you see him pinned between the trees. And you also see references online as to these drunken and racist-ass hillbillies saying, let's break his arms, let's get a rope, let's tie a noose, some other things and shit like that. Which, I don't... Look, okay, white people in general, even when they're pissed off, do not say shit like that. This kind of reminds me of Jussie Smollet. Okay, if you remember that, which just took place recently, it's just one of those things, it's too perfect of a setting and too perfect of a situation for a Black Lives Matter activist and for a person who has a political agenda, which, once again, I'll prove he has a political agenda throughout the course of this video. Just stay with me here.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go, please. Let's go.
Happy about this?
Please. Please.
Fucking do it.
Please.
Nappy-headed bitch.
Oh, wait a minute. Let's not do that. Let's not. Don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that, please.
You happy with your
You are
bullshit.
a poor
You
county
guys
official.
started all
That's
this
what I would
shit.
say.
Did you hear that? She said, you are a poor official. You are a poor public official is basically what she told him. Now, off camera, some type of conversation had to transpire between Vox Booker and this woman to know that he is some type of public official and that he is involved in Black Lives Matter and he's involved in local politics. Some type of conversation had to transpire off camera in which Vox and this girl had a back and forth that didn't end so well based on how her mood changed and she went from being so supportive to being so threatened and being so angry.
Totally started
Put
this
it
on
in
the
your
foot.
fucking film,
You
bitch.
started
Film
that
it.
Okay.
when you
Film
said
it all.
abuse
Okay.
of power.
Okay.
Abuse of power.
Go.
Okay, we're going.
Film it.
Let's go.
This sucks. This sucks both ways, guys.
Come over here again.
Let's go.
No.
Please go.
No,
Go.
no.
Do not abuse your power again, motherfucker.
Get the fuck out of here.
Now notice how far they are away from the down log, which is where they pretty much had their like OK corral shootout moment of racism. Now watch as the video keeps going.
God, just keep leaving.
Now they're having their parting words.
Just got something else to say. I want to get it.
Yeah.
Of course, they want to keep involving himself in this. Now here comes the dog. Now this is what starts the whole thing. This girl basically just wants to go ahead and get the last word, and then her dog takes off running back to Vauxx Booker and his friends. So now she's probably going to want her dog back. This is just some common sense here, okay? She just wants her dog back. She's trying to get that last word. They're trying to walk away, and they're able to walk away. At this point, they're not being chased down. And now, we're going to go ahead and see something from a different angle.
We're worse than the police. We're totally worse than the police. The police didn't even come.
You happy about this? You fucking nappy-headed lions, you happy about this?
Notice the log is nowhere down on the ground once again. So she's had her parting words. The dog has took off running back to Vox Booker and her friends. And then naturally, they're going after the dog because they want to get the dog back. And obviously, the situation escalates more off camera and then someone begins filming again.
What do you really want to call me?
Here we go.
What do you want to call me?
Now look, it's obvious that these fucking overweight, drunk-ass white hillbillies, with their Trump-supporting goofiness and everything else, are racist. Yes, they are racist. However, saying, what do you really want to call me, is not de-escalating the situation. In fact, it's race baiting. He wants that N-word with that hard ER. Why? Because it'll generate more publicity and more clout for someone with a political agenda. Okay, it'll make for better viewing. It'll attract more viewers. It'll get more people to jump on board his overall cause of representing himself. That's why he wants that N hard ER. He's already gotten his ass whooped by 5 dudes who basically have, say shit indicative of racial undertones. That already exists. That's already been proven. But at this point, he is race baiting this guy. Simple as that. And the dude, as drunk as he is, actually doesn't even say the N-word with a hard ER. At no point in any of the videos. And the thing is, they have multiple cell phone cameras out filming this with Vox Booker's party and all of his friends. They've all got their cell phones out filming this. And nobody said the N-word with the hard ER. I didn't see anything mentioned about the news or anything like that. That's a little too convenient to push the narrative there that this was an attempted lynching. That's what I'm saying about this.
You with your 5 white friends? You happy with your 5 white friends? You guys started all this shit. Fuck you, put it in your fucking film.
Let me go back one more time.
You happy about this?
Hold on. Let me get it. Yep, almost had it. Okay, there's the log. Right there, if you can go ahead and see my mouse. There's the log where they had their OK Corral shootout racist moment, where most of the racist footage took place at and was recorded at. Now, they're actually like within probably easily 60 yards away from that friggin' log. So they've actually met up again to have one more altercation while this girl was trying to get her dog back. And now is when the race baiting started. They were already pretty much out of the woods, so to speak, in terms of this altercation. Vox and his friends were, and they had the ability to walk away. But they walked back and pursued it. Which doesn't mean that there was a black man there in fear for his life at that point. When multiple people had their cameras out and they were pressing forward saying, oh, we want more footage. Okay, this is a little too convenient for the narrative of racism at the moment. It's already been proven they're racist and everything. But with the lynching and the hard racial slurs and everything else, it's getting a little questionable.
This? You fucking nappy-headed lions, you happy about this?
What do you really want to call me?
You nappy-headed bitch.
What do you want to call me?
About this? You with your 5 white friends? You happy with your 5 white friends? You guys started all this shit. Fuck you, put it in your fucking film, bitch.
Okay, now we go ahead and look to some actual facts here. A little bit of fact finding. Not there in that folder, actually. Whoopsie. Anyway. But there is a small clip here which actually seems to go ahead and show when the wheels fell off of this incident, and it actually went from bad to immediate work, like to being worse immediately. Okay, now, remember when the girl in the video in the bikini was really supportive of Vauxx Booker, and she was saying, you're an amazing person, you've endured a lot, and you know, I couldn't possibly begin to understand some of the things. And then, all of a sudden, you see things escalate for her, and she starts getting angry, and she starts defending herself and saying that he's a bad public official and not a good person. Well, there's some clues in that video as to what transpired between this girl in the bikini and Vauxx Booker. Now, what she basically said to Vox Booker, if you gotta try to like listen for it over the fat angry guys yelling, but she basically said, "You verbally threatened me, and you said I'm going to slap all kinds of shit on you." That's what she says. We'll play it back a few more times. Okay. So basically that means something happened off camera in which this girl felt threatened. These guys also wanted to come to her aid, and Vauxx and his friends were also walking back and forth along the trail, escalating the situation in order to be able to record more video footage, just to basically get a little bit more publicity and a little bit of clout. Now, for a guy who all of a sudden got his ass kicked and has a concussion, he sure is traversing a large part of the wilderness rather well. It's got fallen trees and holes and roots he could be tripping over and things like that. Like, he's doing fairly well navigating that and then walking down to the shore of the lake to go ahead and talk to the police. Now, there's various other things about Vauxx Booker that people also don't know about. For instance, Vauxx Booker does in fact have a pretty violent past, and it's all over Reddit if you just want to go ahead and do some research. There's first-hand accounts of this. We'll do the little zoom in. Now, he got kicked out of Black Lives Matter a year ago for being sexist and starting fights at a bar, which led to being indefinitely banned from the bar. Okay, that's just a small snippet. It gets worse. But wait, there's more. Now, also, because I'm me, I actually knew someone who worked in Vauxx Booker's campaign because he tried to run for city council in Bloomington, Indiana. Now, basically, I went ahead and got in touch with the person who worked in his campaign, and he said my reasoning for leaving his campaign meaning Vauxx Booker's, is to do specifically with him gaslighting others in various political circles and himself. So this guy and the people who worked in Vauxx Booker's campaign were gaslighted and pretty much verbally abused on a regular basis while working for Vauxx Booker's campaign. And this is just me proving that I'm actually asking the guy the question, like, hey, didn't you work on Vauxx Booker's campaign last year, or do I have you confused with someone else? And he's like, you got me right, I was. Then he says his position of his campaign. I'm not going to go ahead and say who the kid is or what position he worked, because Bloomington is a small town, and I don't want this kid getting confronted by Vauxx and his friends whenever they're out and about at social functions. I don't want this guy feeling uncomfortable simply because he worked on a campaign once and quit for the right reasons, because he was being mentally and verbally abused. I don't want people giving him shit for it, so I'm not going to go ahead and put his name out there, just out of respect for him. Now, once again, I don't want to detract from the fact that there are racial injustices committed every day in Bloomington, Indiana. However, not to this extent, okay? But racism still exists prevalently in Bloomington. Now, this is another pull from Reddit. This guy has crazy anger issues. He once broke a stool over my roommate's leg. No thanks. This guy, when he's saying this guy in reference to Vauxx Booker. Now, if you're not familiar with my case, let me enlighten you. mycase.in.gov is what, if you're an Indiana native or an Indiana resident, is what we all pretty much look each other up on within the first 15 minutes of meeting each other in Indiana. It's basically just a huge, open, public database of everybody's criminal charges. I got a lot of false and fictitious license plates because I always forget to buy tags and then I just throw a random tag on my shit. The cops don't appreciate it, I'm sure. But anyway, In 2016, it was decided. In 2015, he was charged with battery resulting in bodily injury with the side of criminal mischief, just for good measure. And this is from Vauxx Booker's legal records, okay? Yep, that's his rap sheet. Criminal record and all. Now, there's more to it than that. But this is just the stuff that I pretty much highlighted and found immediately without even really trying. And the thing is, Vauxx Booker wants to be a politician, okay? It's rather convenient for a guy who wants to be a politician and push his agenda in regards to black lives and his own personal core beliefs, which a lot of people don't actually agree with. That's been a very common issue in this town, is people disagreeing with Vauxx left and right. I am a Bloomington, Indiana resident. I would know. But anyway, here is a screenshot taken from a YouTube video in which Vauxx Booker sits down with Dan Cannon, who's running for Congress, and they spend a huge amount of time talking about how the Bloomington Police Department purchased a Bearcat, and they felt that it was an unnecessary purchase, and that the money used to purchase the Bearcat, which is a militarized vehicle, could be spent on other things to better the town. And in it, Vauxx Booker actually says some contradictory shit, and even goes as far as to say that more Bloomington, Indiana residents will have their dogs killed by the Bloomington Police Department because the Bloomington Police bought a militarized vehicle. And he claims to have seen studies on it. Like, he pushes some weird shit for his agenda. And this video is on YouTube if you want to check it out for yourself. And I swear to God, if you actually watch the whole thing, he says some weird shit. You're welcome, by the way, for finding that. Because I had to sit through the whole thing, and I didn't fucking like it. Alright, and here's what I don't get. Fucking, oh my God. Like, I am a supporter of Black Lives Matter. Here's the thing. Since Breonna Taylor, who was shot by cops in her sleep, like, they invaded her home, no knock warrant burst in, and then they killed her while she was asleep in her own bed. Eric Garnier, who was selling loose cigarettes. Loose cigarettes are sold all the time in major metropolitan cities. It's a very common thing. The man shouldn't have lost his life over it. Trayvon Martin. Seriously, like, Zimmerman's out there right fucking now selling or giving out packs of Skittles with his autograph on it, all because he saw a teenage boy walking on the sidewalk and wanted a fight that ended with him shooting a gun. Like, it's ridiculous, okay? Black Lives Matter exists because people of color have been oppressed in this country for hundreds of years, okay? And the police have only made it fucking worse with racial profiling. That's why Black Lives Matter. Colin Kaepernick tried to go ahead and kneel in support of it, and people gave him shit. They tried making hashtags on social media to highlight particular instances in which people of color had their rights violated, or they were unjustly attacked by cops and victims of police brutality. People of color tried to, like, silently protest. They tried to protest with just picket signs peacefully. And now the situation is escalated because a cop abused his power and knelt on a black man's neck for 8 minutes and 46 fucking seconds. Okay? Black Lives Matter exists because of racial oppression. Okay? I understand. Fully in support of that. But I'm not in support of Vauxx Booker being the face of Black Lives Matter for Bloomington, Indiana. Not at all. Not a man who's got a violent history. Not a man who's got a history of berating others and abusing them. Not a man who's got a history of instigating situations for political clout. I don't support that. As of right now, his GoFundMe is almost up to $15,000 because he's supposedly going to need counseling. He's going to need to pay his medical bills. He's going to need to pay his attorney fees. And his attorney's taking this on pro bono, by the way. So, yeah. I don't think he should be getting $15,000 for this and being labeled as the face of Black Lives Matter for Bloomington, Indiana. Not in the slightest. I don't actually want to see that, and I don't think he should end up running for city council and being part of the council. I really don't. I never want to see that. But I do fully support Black Lives Matter. I'm not an All Lives Matter person. I'm not going to go around chanting slogans or chanting group names in public or anything like that, because I don't believe I need to chant a slogan or the name of a particular group in order to realize that I shouldn't be an asshole to someone simply because they're a minority or they're a person of a different color than me. I don't think that's okay to do. I really don't. To single people out simply because they're physically different from you, composed of different genetic material, that's an asshole thing to do. And saying all lives matter makes you sound like a huge fucking idiot. That's like saying all rapes matter. That's like sitting down with someone who told you that she was just raped and you go, oh, well, all rapes matter as well. All of a sudden, you've taken away from that what that woman has endured. She got violated in her most holy of holies by a violent attacker who stripped her down to nothing more than just basically, her genitals, and then she's going to be mentally scarred for life, PTSD, endured so much trauma from that, and you're just going to be like, hey, I understand you might have went through some things, but I just want to remind you that, all rapes matter. Like, that makes you look like a huge asshole. And at the same time, not respecting black lives, the Black Lives Matter movement makes you look like an even bigger asshole. Saying you want to be included in that and you should be able to say all lives matter. You should be able to say your life in particular matters. No! This is about exclusivity. You don't get to come on board and say, hey, you know what? My life matters just as much as a black person. Do you know why? Because you as a Caucasian person can walk down the sidewalk without being accosted by police because of your skin color. You as a white person, can get behind the wheel of a car and not be pulled over and profiled by police simply because you're behind the wheel of a car. Okay, black people don't have that luxury. I totally get it. White people aren't out here being killed for loose cigarettes. Yes, there's tragic deaths that happen by the hands of cops to white people as well. But they're not being spotlighted near as much as the deaths of people of color. Because, you know what, there's a larger percentage of white people in comparison to the percentage of black people in this country. And a larger percentage of black people as a whole are being singled out and killed by police officers abusing their power and racially profiling them. That's not happening to white people. There's a big fucking difference. But once again, I really don't think Vauxx Booker should be the face for Black Lives Matter of Bloomington. The man has too much of a violent past. I believe he escalated the situation far past where it needed to go. Yes, he got jumped by 5 dudes and he got the shit kicked out of him. Yes, those dudes were obviously racist. But at the same time, there was a lot that happened off camera which we did not see. And the story itself is too convenient. You wandered down to the lake to watch a lunar eclipse. You stumbled into some guys who magically started talking about nooses and saying hard racial slurs. And then everything turned into them pinning you in between 2 trees and trying to lynch you while you're wanting to be a politician and a proponent for Black Lives Matter. And you've also been kicked out of Black Lives Matter for having violent tendencies. Let that sink in. It's not okay. It's not okay. I would support anybody else before I would support Vox Booker. And the thing is, I have personal experience of Vox Booker myself. I'll end the video with this. Now, Vox Booker, back in 2018, was involved in a situation with Bloomington Transit. Basically, the woman working the booth at the Bloomington Transit called the cops on Vox Booker for being black and looking suspicious. That's essentially why she called the cops on him. I found out about that story and I went ahead and shared it on Facebook. Okay, well then, lo and behold, I end up running into Vox Booker after the story gets some traction. It's been shared a couple 100 times. News outlets have picked it up. I run into Vox Booker at a local bar, and I talk to him and I say, hey, I shared your story. I got it out there to news outlets and picked it up for you. Hopefully you got a peaceful resolution to it, an apology from the city. I hope things worked out for you. And he was drunk when I was talking to him, and he called me stupid. And said I didn't know what I was talking about. And I was the guy who got his story picked up by the media and shared it. Yeah, I was that guy. So, yeah, I personally dealt with him. Anybody else can be the face of Black Lives Matter. I don't even care if you put a white guy on at this point. It's just better than Vox Booker, I'll be honest. But I've said my piece. I provided adequate facts and video evidence. The videos I got were once again obtained from Jeremy Hogan's YouTube account. Jeremy Hogan runs the Bloomingtonian. If you're looking for any facts based about Indiana, or Bloomington, Indiana, especially Southern and Central, check out the Bloomingtonian. Don't do the Herald Times. They pay their staff up to 3 weeks late at all times. They don't really give a damn if you get your paycheck or not when you work for them. The editor was even homeless at one time for the Herald Times. It's not a good paper. They don't do a lot of extensive research. And most of the stuff they print has to be signed off by a couple people just because it's got to fit a certain political narrative before it's even considered informative or before it can even be put in the paper and printed. So yeah, there's that. Well, I've said my piece. I've said all I'm going to say on it. I don't even know how long this video is at this point, but I got it out there. I provided facts. I provided video evidence. There shouldn't be any doubts left in your mind as to what went on there. unless they're the same doubts I have, and those doubts are what actually transpired off camera that wasn't recorded. Anyway, guys, if you like this video, go ahead and throw me a thumbs up, and if you didn't, hey, shit happens. It's tense times. I understand where you're coming from completely. But that's all I'm going to say. All I'm saying. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm out, guys.